Hello, floorball lovers. Today we're going to do one of our reaction videos. So in this series, I'm mainly just going to be finding videos that I find a little bit misguided, or if I find a video that's really good, I want to be able to emphasize the good and the bad in these videos. These are never going to be attacking any of these trainers here. I'm only going to be complimenting or giving my opinion on how what they are doing is not the best way of doing things. So today I watched this video a little bit and I thought it was a good example of some misguided training actions that this person has taken. So let's break down this video a little bit and I'll give you my opinion on it when I agree, when I disagree, etc.
All about how to stop barking or whining in the crate. And I'm going to give you some tactics that you can start working on right away. So before we talk about how to fix the barking in the crate, we also want to talk about why dogs bark in the crate, because there's actually a lot of reasons why they bark in the crate. Some of them are very valid and some of them...
Okay, so I'll stop right here. This is totally right. You want to be able to snuff out the good and the bad reasons. With a lot of dogs, whether it's anxiety, fear, aggression, any of those things, there's generally like appropriate times to demonstrate those behaviors and then inappropriate times to demonstrate those behaviors. I'll tell a little bit story later on about when someone encouraged fear inside of a dog to the point where when I went up and pet that dog, it defecated itself because it was so afraid of me. And so this is totally right. You need to figure out, in this instance, she's talking about, is the dog correct for being whining inside the crate, or is it not correct for whining inside the crate?
Are just plain annoying. Lots of dogs will bark in their crate because they're bored, because
Yep.
they're not so happy that they can't just go and do whatever they want to in the house. Sometimes there's valid things like they actually have to go to the bathroom, or they need something for some reason. Before I start to address the actual noise in the crate, I do need to make sure that she doesn't...
Okay, so I'm going to fast forward through this part. She's just making sure that her dog, doesn't have to go to the bathroom or
actually
anything
need
like
something.
that,
She's not actually
which is good. And then she kind of moves into what she actually does during the crate training. And that's one thing I wanted to address here.
requiring something. So this is Nico. She's a Whippet puppy, and we've borrowed her for today's barking in the crate video because we've heard she does a lot of barking in the crate. We've also experienced a little bit of barking in the crate. And first things first is I've already noticed from getting her into the crate that she doesn't really like going in her crate. So I'm a little bit prepared for that. I have a little piece of food here, and I'm going to coax her in, but I'm not really going to give...
It's a little bit dangerous to like just take a dog who doesn't like being in a crate and then forcing them inside there and expecting them to behave correctly inside of a crate. There's another video I was watching and it's much better to like associate the crate with good, like positive reinforcements. And so put the crate out in the middle of the living room, allow like, throw a treat inside there. Maybe you only give them certain treats when they're in the crate, make it kind of like a special place for them. But like my dog and most dogs, they live inside dens when they're wolves. They're very used to crates. I do like covered crates versus these open crates. These open crates, they confine the dog without giving them a sense of like protection. So actually, a closed crate can be beneficial to a lot of dogs that have anxiety. But sometimes you have to force the dog in the crate, but this is not the best way of doing things.
her a choice because I want her to understand she's got to go in. Here we go. Here you go. Yes, good
Okay, so the dog
girl.
doesn't dislike it that much.
But I'm going to make it happen. I can reward her for that. Now, one thing that we sort of noticed with her is that she is fairly quiet if we're around, but if we start to, have a conversation off to the side, or especially if we leave the room, then she starts to go a little bit nuts. Now, she's settled, which is great, but my life is not going to revolve on around hovering over my dog in the crate. I need to go and do normal human things while she sort of chills out in the crate. So I have some food here. I'm just going to sort of set it off at the side. And when you're training this, you kind of just need to look a little bit busy. Maybe you have your crate in your living room like we do. Maybe you have it in the kitchen, but just sort of do stuff, but keep your eye on the dog. So if I start moving around and she's doing what she needs to do, I'm going to take an opportunity to praise her. Good girl, good quiet. Oh, you like that, good girl? Good.
Yeah, so praising the dog when they are quiet in the crate is also good. Encourage that. It's a little bit beyond this where I think the problems start to pop up in this video.
And then I could come over and drop a little cookie in her crate. If I wanted, you could just use praise as well without any feeding if you'd like to. Good girl, good quiet. And I'm just going to reinforce her for being chill as I'm busy. It's really important to remember that when you're doing this, that you actually are focused on what the dog's doing. So this is not a good thing to practice if you need to be multitasking, if you actually need to be helping your kids with something, or somebody's actually going to come to the door, or a real life situation happens. I wouldn't recommend training this during that moment. You need to be really aware so that you can keep your eye on the dog. So
Okay,
if you
this
have a
is the
dog
area I
that
wanted to
barks in the
see.
crate, I'm going to give you a potentially game-changing tip, and that is the location of your crate. So when it comes time to have to do normal people things like make dinner, and you go, yes, good girl. And your crate maybe is located in the living room or somewhere that's away from where you're going to be spending your time to make your meals. You're now putting your dog in a situation where they could rehearse doing a lot of obnoxious barking. And when we're in the training phase, we don't really want them to have a lot of that rehearsal. Now, again, we've learned with this dog, and she's like many of your dogs, she's better when she's around us, when she's with us. So now that I have to make dinner, I've made the decision to move the crate to the kitchen so that I can keep my eye on her.
Yes, yeah, I very much disagree with this. What she's talking about is like the dog's able to rehearse doing the bad behavior, therefore the dog's going to do that bad behavior more often. But like bringing the crate to the kitchen does not address the problem of the dog whining in the crate. Really, you're just like letting the dog have what it wants, which is to have you inside eyesight at all times. And you want an independent dog. You don't want a dog that has to see you at all times. You want to build that independence over time. So there's probably something in the owners of this dog where they reinforced that insecurity in their dog. But like for instance, with my dog, the first time we had Verbal, and we have her inside the room just on the dog bed. We don't really use crates yet, although we're thinking about it because she's had a few potty training accidents, and that's the main reason I like crates. But the first time she was at our house, she came up to the bed and she kind of tried to jump up on the bed. She's not tall enough to actually get up on the bed, which is good. But she would jump up on the bed, she would whine, and I just told my girlfriend ignore her, don't react to her at all. And after 2 or 3 minutes, it's kind of sad. She's a very cute face, but she just gives up after a little bit of time. And then potentially then you could praise her, but in my situation we just ignored her because it's almost like a baby. Like you need to get the baby used to sleeping in the other room. The dog needs to be used to sleeping in their own area and not always interacting with you. So this is one point I disagree with.
I can come back and reward her. I can address the barking if I need to, but I feel pretty confident she'll be fairly settled. Now, I will get to the point where I need to practice teaching her that I cannot be with you 24/7 when you're in your crate. I need to go and do different things. But when you're working through it, try your best to set your dog up to make good choices. And if that means moving the crate to a couple different locations in the house to make that easier for you, that's going to help you sort of transition to this a little bit more smoothly. We always want to look for training opportunities, and I am seeing one right now. She is laying comfortably and calmly and quietly in her crate. So I'm going to take an opportunity to just practice actually removing myself from the room and taking an opportunity to reward her if she's still settled
So this is the part to pay attention to. This is one of the worst things she does.
as I leave. Now, I can sneak out the door and listen, but I'm just going to start off by, going out the door for just a moment, and then I'm going to come back and reward. Now, I'm going to emphasize the just the moment part because we're not leaving for 10 minutes and hoping that it works. We're literally just going at a site for a moment to see what they do. Hey, quiet.
See, right there. It was like she left the room. What she should have done is she should have left the room and then come back before the dog started whining. But right there, where she waits until the split second the dog starts whining to come back in the room, even though she's like punishing the dog by saying quiet to it, which is not a punishment to a dog. Like that's attention. The dog doesn't understand English. She doesn't even have like an angry tone. But either way, it's like the dog is learning as soon as you go outside the room, if I whine, you come right back in the room, which is just reinforcing the whining behavior.
So even if I'm not in the room, I verbaled right away. So I verbaled even when she couldn't see me because I want to pinpoint within 1 second of her making noise. So that's why the verbal happened immediately. Then I can come in.
But the verbal's a reward. She thinks that the verbal is like, I'm not sure what exactly she thinks, but it seems like she thinks the verbal is like a positive punishment when it's not. That's not a punishment at all. That's a reward to the dog. And so the dog is just going to whine more frequently now whenever she leaves the room.
And from there, you be quiet. That's enough. Quiet.
Like, how is that a punishment?
Good girl. Good, quiet. Good. Let's talk a little bit about the dog training side of things when it.
Yeah, so you notice she doesn't show the rest of the video, and that's probably because it's not functioning correctly. It's not working. Um, I might watch the rest of this video. I just saw that one point, and I kind of wanted to bring it up. So let's talk a couple of things about crate training. So crate training, let's say you have a blank dog who doesn't have any negative or positive association with the crate. Then you want to just leave the crate inside the living room, leave the door open, maybe leave a treat inside there, get the dog very used to going in and out, going in and out. Eventually, you can start doing training where you kind of either lure the dog in there, throw a treat inside there or something, and eventually add a command word. It's very similar to teaching any other command. You have to get the dog to, fall into position, whether that's sit, down, or getting inside of a crate. You want to get the dog to do that behavior consistently before you add the command word. But it's very easy, and maybe I'll train it with my dog here the next couple of days, or probably in the week or two. We're really focusing on like touch, sitting down right now. But we'll train that command eventually, and I'll show you it's just like any other command, getting the dog into position, marking that behavior, adding difficulty, eventually adding a command word. So we'll listen to a little bit more about what she has to say.
Comes to good timing and delivering our information when our dogs are making noise in the crate. So we basically have a couple steps that we're trying to do. Number one is we need to make sure that we are using our voice to pinpoint when the dog is making noise within 1 second of the noise.
Yeah, see, I don't understand this. Like, why would you use your voice to pinpoint the time? Like, that's essentially like a so that's essentially like you're building a secondary reinforcer. Like, how the clicker, you build a secondary reinforcer by giving food, like, clicking, then giving food, clicking, then giving food. So you're taking the primary reinforcer of food and you're pairing that with the secondary reinforcer of the clicker noise. With this, she's essentially taking the primary reinforcer of attention and she's pairing it with her saying a word outside of the room. And so, like, all she's really doing is, like, literally training her dog to whine as soon as she leaves the room. Like, this is not going to be successful.
Happening. And again, don't wait till it escalates to the dog going crazy in the crate. Start off with just a little bit of noise to begin with. I'm going to pinpoint that with, a word like quiet or hey or something like that.
The dog doesn't know what that means.
That's enough. Quiet. Sometimes the dogs will just respond to that break.
She's acting like that the dog stopping whining is like the dog realizing that it shouldn't whine when all it's realizing is, hey, I got the owner's attention. Like, it's reinforcing it.
In your voice or that interaction with them will cause them to be quiet. That gives you that split little second to praise them calmly and positively for that quiet behavior. Yes, good, quiet, good girl. A lot of dogs though will just bark right through or make noise through that verbal reprimand because they don't really know what it means quite yet. So the second step is to then follow that verbal with some type of interruption. For some dogs, just gently.
I think this is why, like, the purely positive means of training just it's taken over because everyone wants to be nice with animals at all time, and like I love my dogs to death, but one of the worst things you can do is like I always tell people I would rather do small, short, targeted punishments versus like my dog annoying the heck out of me for months or years, and I'm just constantly yelling at them or telling them, hey, blah blah blah. Like that's like I'll say something controversial right now, but like shock collars would be like a beautiful way of doing it right now. And there's a way to do shock collars correctly. I'll do another video on shock collars. Yeah, maybe I'll do that tomorrow or something like that. But that could be like a very easy way to prevent whining within the crate. Now it depends on the personality of the dog. Some dogs are too fearful or anxious to use shock collars with, and it's just gonna exacerbate their anxiety. But like what I would do with this dog, for instance, is I would leave the room. The dog starts whining, and they're going to have what's called an extinction burst. And so when a dog does a behavior they're used to getting attention for, and you don't give them that attention, they're going to ramp up the level for a little bit. That's the extinction burst. And then eventually they're going to give up, or you're going to give up, but preferably the dog's going to give up. And then you can reward them after they're done with that extinction burst. So I would leave the room. The dog would whine. Now, some dogs I've had very difficult time with this, like they'll whine for hours, and that's where I think the shock collar could come in very handy. But for like a normal dog, they're going to get bored after a few minutes. They're going to stop whining. Wait for 5 seconds, 10 seconds after they stop whining, and then come back in and reward them. So you're rewarding them being quiet, not them being loud. For a shot caller in this case, what could be really useful if a dog is persistently whining is one, you have to I'm going to the shot collar stuff here anyways, but because I want to explain the context of why I think they're very useful. But you desensitize the dog to the shot collar, you put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off, so that way they don't associate the collar with the punishment. But then you put it on them when they're in their crate, they start to whine. After a little bit, you give them a shock that snaps them out of that behavior. 5, 10 seconds after that, you go in there and then reward them. And so you're trying to reward the quiet moments and not the loud moments.
Tapping the crate will be all that you need to stop the noise for a moment. Hey, 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 stop. You're fine. While other dogs may need that leash on the crate to, make a more significant, startling noise. Again, we're not trying
I
to
like the leash
scare or
more.
upset the dogs by doing this. We're simply trying to distract them or interrupt them by making that noise so that we have a...
You could do like a leash or like a long rope or something on the cage and rattle it or something to get them to stop whining and then come in there 5 seconds after they stop whining. Excuse me, that's like a valid, I think, approach to this, but I don't like the tapping of the crate because you have to go in there, you have to reinforce that behavior in order to tap on the crate. And tapping on the crate is not a negative thing for dogs, not unless you like punch the crate or something like that, and I don't recommend that.
Few moments, sometimes it's truly a few moments, a few seconds, for us to have an opportunity to then say, good girl, good, quiet, yes, and start praising the good. And then from there, we can build on it. I'm going to share with you guys a pro training tip now, because there are lots of dogs that are wonderful when you're in the room, and then when you leave, they make noise. The second you walk in to, address the barking, they stop right away because they're like, yay, you walked in the room, I'm excited to see you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't really get an opportunity to address the noise with really good timing. Another thing you can do is use a long line that you attach to your dog's crate. Now, I don't have a long line on me today, but I have 2 leashes that I've put together, which might be a helpful thing for you to know.
See, I like this much more. This is a much better way of doing it.
So basically, I would just clip the leash to the front of the dog's crate, and I would go around the room to the other side, maybe leave the room. I could maybe, if I was sitting on a couch and I was at a distance, you could do exactly the same thing. It doesn't need to be specifically to leaving the room. But basically, I'm going to leave and go in the other room and see what happens. And if she makes noise, I can actually do my correction or my interruption from, outside the room, which means the only time that she...
See, she's so scared of saying correction. That's because a lot of the dog trainers nowadays are just terrified of any form of punishment. But if you go to any serious dog trainer, like, there's appropriate ways of punishing dogs to where you can do it in a humane manner, to where you can take these bad behaviors and extinguish them in a much shorter time period than if you try to do only positive, because only positive is only going to get you so far. If you want to do like not even advanced dog training, like I recommend this for, it really depends on the dog. Some dogs need it, some dogs don't.
Sees me is when she's actually being quiet, so I can be reinforcing the right things. So I'm going to sneak out, see what happens here. Quiet.
Yeah, see, quiet. She's just telling the dog.
Yes, good, quiet. What a good girl. Now, I don't want to keep correcting her, so I'm going to just leave for a second, and then I'm going to come in before she has a chance to make noise.
See, that's a better way of doing it.
Good girl, quiet.
That's a much better way of doing it.
Good. Good girl, good, quiet.
A little quick,
That's
but
nice. Good girl.
I think she switched methods because she saw the other method was not working whatsoever.
Yes, good girl. Well done. Timing is everything. I need to use a firmer voice when she's making noise. As soon as I see the settled and the calm behavior, I can use more of a soothing and calming voice from there. Don't keep rehearsing failure for the dog. It might mean that you need to start off with being, in your dog's view for a little bit longer and then slowly building the out of sight stuff. But your dog's really going to let you know what they're comfortable with.
With this dog, I guarantee it would take her 6-8 months to train out this behavior. if she continues on this path of like how she is training this behavior out, it takes way too long and it's just unnecessary.
Based on how they react to it. Good girl. Very good. So now that I've had some quiet behavior, I can start reinforcing this. And again, I'm just going to build on the time frame very slowly. As she's more comfortable, I can spend a little bit more time out of sight, making sure that when I come back, it is when she's calm and settled. Now, another great place to use the technique of the leashes is at nighttime. If your dog's making any noise in the crate while you're sleeping, rather than getting up out of bed 100 million times a night, you could attach your long line to the crate and do this same technique. So for Nico's owners and for you at home, you may consider what type of crate that your dog is in. Dogs are very much denning animals. We're using a wire crate today, which Nico seemed to be fine with, but there are some dogs that prefer using a plastic style crate over a wire crate just because.
Okay, I think I agree with most of the other things she's saying. I think she kind of switched methods halfway through, which is kind of interesting there. I just really wanted to highlight that first method that she was using, where she would come back in as soon as the dog was whining and say, "Hey, hey, hey, hey." Like that's not a good way to train out the whining behavior when they are crating. That's just reinforcing the behavior. And what you should do is you should, depending on how severe the whining behavior is, try leaving the room, coming back in before the dog starts whining. That's definitely a valid way of doing things. Going out, if your dog does start whining when you go out, you cannot come back in until your dog stops whining. That's why I recommend, moving the crate into a smaller room where your dog is not as stimulated. You can leave the room if your dog starts whining. Just go about your day until your dog stops whining, and then you come back and you reinforce that behavior. Well, I think that's it for this video. I'll try to find some other ones. Comment if you guys have any videos that you would like me to go over and give my reaction to, and please like and subscribe. Have a good day, everyone.